Hello there. I'm glad we found this quiet corner of the night together. Wherever you are, allow the edges of your day to soften and let the gentle dark settle around you like a heavy, comforting blanket. Sometimes, when the world is still, our minds start to wander toward the deepest, most beautiful questions. We look out at the ancient galaxies, down at the simplest grain of sand, and notice a remarkable thing. Everything seems to hold together. Have you ever wondered about the quiet, invisible threads that weave our world, the deep, reliable patterns that make the sun rise, the apple fall, and the stars keep their perfect appointments? Tonight, we'll move slowly, tracing these underlying laws, the essential, unshakable truths that shape our reality and everything in it. There is a deep comfort in understanding that the universe is built on a framework of elegant, dependable rules. If this gentle journey into the nature of things brings you a moment of stillness or sparks a little wonder, a soft like and a quiet subscribe help others find their way to this restful space. For now, just settle in. The universe is patient, and we'll begin together, unhurried and warm. Why does the world feel so steady, even while your thoughts wander and drift? Why does a glass stay resting on the table, a leaf fall faithfully toward the ground, evening air cool the day in the same quiet way over and over? There is a softness to that reliability, a sense that reality is repeating a pattern it knows by heart without ever needing to announce it. Because we grow up surrounded by human rules, it is easy to imagine that nature must work by rules in the same way. Traffic lights tell cars when to stop and go. Signs ask for silence. Written laws explain what is allowed and what is not. Those rules exist because someone chose them. People decided, agreed, and wrote them down in hopes of shaping what will happen next. Natural rules are not like that. No one holds a meeting to decide how strong gravity should be. No committee votes on the speed of light. There is no voice reminding atoms of their duties. What we call the laws of nature are not instructions pinned somewhere in the sky. They are simply our careful descriptions of what the universe keeps doing again and again with remarkable consistency. When we say, there is a law of falling bodies, we are really saying this: whenever a stone is released, it falls, and it falls in a way that can be described with the same simple relationship each time. You can open your hand in the morning, tomorrow, next year, in another town, on another continent, and the stone's motion will follow the same quiet curve. The law is our way of putting that curve into words and numbers. The behavior itself was there long before anyone tried to write it down. Human rules depend on choice. A person can run a red light, break a promise, whisper when silence is requested. Those rules can be disobeyed, and when they are, someone else has to step in to enforce them. Natural patterns are not like that. A stone cannot choose to rise instead of fall. A cup of tea sitting in a cool room cannot decide to grow hotter all on its own. A ray of light does not pause to consider which speed feels right tonight. And yet, every time something drops from your hand, it accelerates in a way that can be predicted with astonishing precision. Every time light travels through empty space, it moves at a speed that, as far as we can tell, never varies. It does not hurry one moment and dawdle the next. There is a calm certainty in its motion, as though the universe has built a path that has the same length for every tiny heartbeat of time. This is what makes natural rules different from the rules we invent. Human rules are fragile. They depend on agreement, memory, and willingness. Natural patterns are woven into the way things exist at all. They cannot be broken because they are not commands. They are the shapes that appear when countless events unfold in the same way, over and over, from the smallest particle to the largest galaxy. They are not invented, they are discovered. They are not enforced, they are observed. Nothing outside the universe seems to be forcing it to behave so consistently. There is no visible hand straightening it out when it starts to wobble. As far as we can tell, the universe carries its own steadiness within itself. The same patterns repeat not just here, not just now, but wherever and whenever our instruments and our eyes have managed to reach. You can feel that steadiness in something as simple as a cup of hot tea left on a table. At first, it gives off heat eagerly. Wisps of warmth rise into the surrounding air. Gradually, as minutes pass, its temperature leans toward the temperature of the room. If you measured that change, you would see the same gentle curve each time. Make the tea again tomorrow, or in another house, or in another country, and the way the warmth fades will follow the same soft arc toward balance. Motion tells the same quiet story. Roll a ball across the floor and watch how it begins, briskly, then slows, then settles. The details depend on the surface, on the ball, on the strength of your push, but beneath all that, variety lives the same pattern of slowing. Long before anyone knew how to write formulas about forces and friction, that pattern was already there. People did not know the equations, but they knew the feeling in their hands. Push harder, and the stone flies farther. Push lightly, and it comes to rest sooner. Look at leaves drifting from a tree. Each one traces its own small dance, turning and wavering. No two paths are identical, and yet every leaf curves downward, caught between gravity pulling it and air pressing gently back. The details change the twist here, the sway there, but the overall motion is so familiar that you would recognize it anywhere. Your eyes know the shape of falling without needing to think. Light may be the most astonishingly reliable of all. Picture yourself outside at night with a small flashlight in hand. You press the switch, and a beam stretches into the darkness. Tiny packets of light, photons, rush outward at a speed that has, as far as we know, been the same since the early universe began to cool. They do not falter or test alternatives. They move in a way so consistent that our most delicate instruments keep finding the same number again and again. That steadiness lets us build precise clocks, steer spacecraft, and send messages that travel cleanly across oceans and through the sky. From this deep reliability in simple things, countless everyday wonders unfold. A kettle begins to whistle because water turning into steam expands in a predictable way and squeezes through a narrow opening, creating the same rising note each time. A rainbow appears because light entering raindrops bends and reflects at certain angles that never seem to change. A shadow creeps slowly across the floor because the earth turns beneath the sun with stubborn regularity, carrying the light from one part of the sky to another. None of these processes needs your attention. You do not have to remember to tell the kettle to sing or remind the sun to rise. They unfold silently, guided by patterns that were there long before there were kitchens or windows or anyone watching from behind the glass. And when we peer far beyond our own lives toward distant stars, spinning galaxies, and the faint glow left from the universe's earliest moments, we see those same kinds of patterns echoing there as well. It is part of what makes the universe feel both mysterious and strangely gentle. On paper, it is easy to imagine things going differently. You can picture a reality where stones fall one day and hang motionless the next, where heat sometimes flows from cold objects into hot ones, where the sun's brightness jumps unpredictably from morning to morning. In such a place, atoms would struggle to form stable structures. Stars might flare and vanish without rhythm. Planets could wander in wild, tangled paths. The calm continuity that allows life to form, grow, and persist would be hard to find. Yet here, that is not what we see. Instead of chaos without memory, we find regularity. Instead of constant surprise, we find themes that repeat. It is as if existence, left alone, tends to arrange itself into patterns rather than pure noise. Choice may not be the right word, because there is no sign of a mind deciding moment by moment. But whatever the deeper reason, nature behaves in ways that allow us to recognize it from one heartbeat to the next. When people first began to study these habits with care, they were not inventing rules out of nothing. They were listening. They timed falling objects, watched pendulums swing, warmed and cooled materials, split light into colors, and wrote down what they saw. Slowly, they noticed that the same relationships appeared again and again. Numbers matched. Curves on their simple graphs repeated familiar shapes. It was as though the universe had been telling the same quiet story forever. And humans were finally learning enough of its language to write a translation. In that sense, natural laws are more like shadows than orders. Each one is an outline of how the universe tends to behave. When we write them as sentences or equations, we are really saying, whenever the world finds itself in this kind of situation, this is what usually follows. The world does not read those words. They are for us, for our memory, for our understanding, for our attempts to glimpse what might happen next. Because of this, the world around you is not a constant shock. You can breathe steadily, trusting that the air will behave as it did a moment ago. You can set your foot down, trusting the ground to meet it. You can look up at the sky and have a gentle sense of what the sun, the moon, and the clouds are likely to do. Life still has more than enough surprise and uncertainty, but beneath that, there is a framework of patterns holding everything up. Underneath that comfort lies a question that feels especially tender in the quiet of night. How did the universe come to be like this at all? Why do the same causes lead to the same effects so faithfully, instead of the world reinventing itself from scratch every instant? We do not yet know the full answer, and perhaps we never will. But we can watch how repetition arises from countless small, consistent actions, and in doing so, we see how order emerges from the busy motion of matter and energy. You can sense this by returning to the simplest patterns in nature: clouds gathering, waves rolling, morning light returning. When air cools in a certain way, the same types of clouds tend to appear. When wind brushes the surface of the sea, waves rise in shapes you would recognize even years later. When the earth turns, sunrise and sunset trace arcs you could almost sketch from memory. These repetitions become so familiar that they fade into the background, like gentle wallpaper for existence. Inside each of those patterns are uncountable tiny events. Take a wave approaching the shore. From a distance, it looks like a single moving shape, lifting itself up and curling forward. But the wave is not a solid object. It is a traveling form, carried by water that is constantly shifting. Each droplet is pulled by gravity, nudged by neighbors, influenced by the wind above and the ground beneath. None of them knows anything about making a wave. What gives the wave its recognizable form is that each droplet responds in the same basic way to the forces acting on it. The wind transfers energy into the water. Gravity pulls downward with dependable strength. The water pushes back when it is compressed and shares motion with the droplets beside it. Out of those many small, consistent reactions, the larger pattern appears. No one commands the ocean to draw a wave of a particular shape. The wave is simply what happens when all those tiny motions follow their usual tendencies. Consider the air itself. Some evenings it is only a soft drift, barely stirring the leaves outside your window. On other days it gathers into gusts that rattle branches and push clouds across the sky. Wind can feel wild and moody, but underneath those shifting moods are simple habits. Warm air tends to rise. Cool air tends to sink. Differences in temperature and pressure set the air in motion, looping it in broad, graceful paths from one region to another. Those loops repeat. The same differences in warmth and pressure produce similar flows again and again. Over oceans and plains, between valleys and mountaintops, air moves according to these quiet rules. Clouds gather where rising air cools and moisture condenses. Clear skies linger where air sinks and warms. The air does not think or choose, yet from its unthinking responses, breezes, winds, and familiar seasonal patterns emerge. Daylight follows a rhythm drawn from something deeply regular. Each morning, the world brightens as the edge of our planet turns toward the sun. The time of sunrise shifts gently over the months, but the basic cycle repeats with remarkable faithfulness. That rhythm is tied to Earth's rotation, a slow spin set in motion billions of years ago and sustained because, in the emptiness of space, there is little to slow it down. The Earth turns like a patient dancer, and the sun seems to rise and set as a result. You do not need to remind the planet to keep spinning. You do not need to ask the sun to climb the sky once more. Their motions continue because large objects in space tend to keep moving smoothly unless something strong acts to change them. From that simple fact come the familiar structure of your days. Morning light, afternoon brightness, evening dimness, and the return of night. Over and over, the same gentle cycle wraps around your life. Even the weather, which feels so changeable up close, is shaped by repetition. One day may be clear and another gray, but certain processes keep returning. Familiar cloud shapes appear when air cools past well-known thresholds. Rain falls when droplets grow heavy enough to slip through the air that once held them up. Large storms trace paths, guided by the turning of the earth and by how heat is shared between oceans and land. The details are complicated, and tiny differences can nudge the system in different directions. But beneath that complexity, the same quiet habits are always at work. When you gather all of these gentle scenes in your mind, the rolling waves, the quiet wind, the turning of the day, and even this shifting, often surprising weather, something soft becomes clear. Patterns in nature do not appear because someone orders them to. They are not the result of a command whispered from far away. They arise because the universe is steady deep down, because energy flows in familiar ways, and matter responds with the same quiet tendencies, moment after moment. Whenever a push is given in the same way, whenever warmth spreads or fades in similar conditions, whenever motion follows the same hidden curves, shapes begin to repeat, rhythms return. The world moves as though it remembers itself, even though there is no memory at all, only the same foundations, gently supporting the same results. Imagine a hillside scattered with countless small pebbles. When rain first begins to fall, the water trickles down in thin, wandering lines, not yet sure of its path. It finds the easiest routes, slipping between stones, stitching together tiny streams. The next day, when the rain returns, The water feels those shallow grooves carved the day before. It settles into them again, deepening them a little more. With each storm, the same thin channels grow more defined, guiding the flow ever more firmly. The water does not think back to yesterday. It simply follows the shape it finds. The hill shapes the water, and the water reshapes the hill, gently reinforcing its own behavior without intention. Out of this back and forth, a pattern appears. Little rivulets, then narrow gullies, and eventually, perhaps, a stream. Repetition resting on a stable structure builds something lasting, almost without being noticed. Nature is full of this quiet feedback. When the same action happens again and again, it leaves a trace. That trace makes it easier for the same action to happen again in the future. Forest paths appear where footsteps repeatedly fall in the same place. Sand dunes line up where the wind keeps combing the grains in the same direction. Patterns survive not because they are protected, but because the world itself gently encourages them. Beneath all of this lies the deeper story of matter itself. Everything you can see and touch is made of unimaginably tiny pieces that move and vibrate and press against one another. These atoms and smaller particles do not improvise new habits each morning. They respond to pushes and pulls, to heat and cold, in the same ways they did long before there were eyes to notice. Warm something, and its atoms jostle more fiercely, crowding and tumbling with greater energy. Cool it, and their motion softens and slows. This is not a mood. It is a habit written into the nature of those particles. They do not decide that today they will react differently to warmth, or that tomorrow they will ignore the chill. Their behavior does not sway between one rule and another. It follows the same quiet tendencies again and again. From the combined dance of these countless tiny motions, the familiar behavior of the world emerges. The way water ripples when you touch it, the way air gathers into a breeze, the way a solid table seems firm under your hand. Each of these is built from the same small ingredients, behaving reliably. The world you move through every day, the one that feels so solid and knowable, exists because its smallest building blocks keep repeating themselves. In this sense, predictability is not something forced onto the universe from outside. It grows naturally from the stability of its foundations. When the smallest pieces behave the same way today as they did yesterday, and when they continue to do so tomorrow, the larger patterns they create become steady as well. Waves roll in because droplet after droplet responds predictably to wind and gravity. Seasons return because Earth's motion follows the same great curves through space. A ball rolled across the floor slows in familiar ways because countless tiny forces beneath it act as they always have. Millions of small events are always unfolding just out of sight. Each one follows the same gentle rules, nudging the world in a direction that feels recognizable, reinforcing shapes and cycles we come to rely on. The reliability of the big things, winds and waves, orbits and tides, rests on the reliability of the small things that lie beneath them. This is why the patterns we see are not brittle. They persist because the deep structure of the universe supports them. Stability is woven through reality like a quiet thread, allowing repetition to bloom everywhere you look. It is why you can trust that water will still quench thirst tomorrow, that ice will still be cold, that the sky will still brighten when the earth slowly turns you toward the sun. Patterns are the universe behaving like itself, moment after moment, with gentle regularity. They are the way the world shows you that beneath all its variety, it is grounded in something steady. From this grows a simple but calming thought. Nature repeats because its roots are firm. The smallest pieces of existence follow the same hushed tendencies, and from those tendencies come the loops and cycles that make reality feel familiar. Patterns are like the universe quietly letting you know that it rests on dependable principles, even if those principles feel mysterious and distant. Every sunrise, every gust of wind, every wave curling toward the shore is a small expression of that deep stability. One of the most intriguing hints of this steadiness is found in a word that sounds almost delicate: symmetry. At first, it can seem like a purely visual idea, something to do with shapes that look pleasing when they match. But underneath that surface, symmetry touches something fundamental about why the universe behaves so calmly and predictably. It is one of the ways reality holds itself together, keeping its balance while still allowing enormous variety. At its heart, symmetry means sameness under change. If you shift something, turn it, or flip it, and it still looks the same, that thing has symmetry. Imagine holding a snowflake close to your eyes on a still winter day. Each one is unique, yet there is a recognizable pattern in its arms. Turn it by a certain angle, and it seems to fit into itself again, as though it were built from repeated whispers of the same idea. Or think of a seashell that curls into a smooth spiral. You can rotate it, or imagine mirroring it, and it still feels balanced and whole, as if every part knows how to echo the others. Picture a mountain reflected in a lake, so still that the world above and the world below almost merge. Flip the scene in your mind, and the two sides line up so neatly that, for a moment, the boundary between them fades. Symmetry shows up in nature long before we give it a name. Consider gravity. It does not favor one direction over another. No matter which way you turn, no matter how you rotate yourself, the pull you feel is always downward, toward the center of the earth. Step to the left or to the right, and that quiet tug follows you without changing its mind. Space, in this sense, treats all directions equally. That is a kind of symmetry. Light shares this impartiality. Shine a torch north, south, east, or west, and the beam travels outward in straight lines with the same quiet determination. The universe does not bend its rules depending on your compass. This sameness in every direction is soothing because it means you do not have to keep track of a secret map of favored paths. The world behaves the same way, whichever way you turn. Time, too, carries its own gentle symmetry. If you boil water today, it bubbles and steams in much the same way it did yesterday, and will again tomorrow, so long as the conditions are alike. Drop a stone in the afternoon, and its fall obeys the same pattern it did in the morning. Events unfold under the same quiet tendencies across time, and that sameness is another form of symmetry. Instead, reality leans toward harmony. Directions are treated evenly. Moments are woven from the same fabric. Because nature respects these symmetries, you do not need to relearn how the world works each time you move, turn, or wake to a new day. The sameness you feel is not a trick of perception. It is a feature of the universe itself, a sign that space is smooth rather than twisted, that time glides forward without sudden lurches, that forces like gravity and light respond steadily without hidden preferences. These symmetries simplify the universe in a gentle way. They strip away unnecessary complications and leave behind rules that hold true no matter where you stand or which way you face. Think of a perfect circle drawn on a page. Spin the page slowly, and the circle never changes. Every direction through it is equivalent, and that makes it wonderfully simple to describe. In a similar spirit, many of the forms we see in nature seem to arise from the universe's quiet lean toward balance. Planets gather into spheres because gravity pulls equally from all sides, gradually smoothing away bumps over long stretches of time. Stars, too, round themselves into glowing spheres for the same reason. Even a tiny soap bubble floating in the air becomes a nearly perfect sphere because the surface of the liquid is pulled evenly in every direction, tightening itself into the smallest, most balanced shape it can find. Symmetry does not only mold shapes, it also guides how things move. Because space treats directions so fairly, objects allowed to glide freely move in straight, steady paths until something pushes or pulls them. A rolling ball does not secretly prefer one direction to another. A beam of light does not speed up when pointed east and slow down when turned west. This even-handedness keeps motion clear and consistent, letting the same causes lead to the same effects. There is a similar calm in the symmetry of time. You can warm a pot of soup and trust that it will heat in the same manner it did the last time. You can watch a pendulum swing and know that its rhythmic arc matches the pattern it traced yesterday. The behavior depends on the conditions, the length of the pendulum, the strength of gravity, the amount of heat, not on the particular date marked on a calendar. To the underlying rules, moments are simply moments, lined up along a smooth, continuous flow. When symmetries are present, they act like quiet guides. They steer nature toward behavior that is balanced and repeatable. They close off strange possibilities where the world would act wildly different for no clear reason. By removing these unnecessary variations, symmetries let simple relationships grow between things. A planet's orbit stays smooth because space does not twist its preferences from one direction to another. Light spreads outward in calm, expanding shells because every direction is welcomed equally. Even on the tiniest scales, symmetry is respected. The particles that compose everything you know interact in ways that do not depend on where those particles are or how the entire scene is turned. If you could somehow take a snapshot of their invisible dance and rotate the whole picture, the unfolding story would continue unchanged. This microscopic sameness blossoms into the larger symmetries you can see, the repeating facets of a crystal, the even spreading of light from a lamp, the quiet strength of structures that are balanced on all sides. What makes symmetry especially tender is that it does more than please the eye. It helps explain why natural rules exist at all and why they are so reliable. When space treats every direction the same, the motions of objects become predictable. When time treats each moment the same, the unfolding of events becomes steady. When forces act without bias, the world behaves in ways that can be understood and trusted. In the gentle balance of symmetry, nature finds a way to keep itself steady. It trims away chaos by offering sameness where disorder might have reigned. It leans toward harmony instead of complication. And in everyday moments, a snowflake resting on a sleeve, a seashell turning slowly in your hand, a mountain and its reflection quietly sharing a lake, you catch small, shimmering hints of that deep order. Those simple scenes are doorways into something vast. The same quiet principles that shape a snowflake's arms also help guide planets around their stars, influence how light travels, and whisper structure into the atoms that make up your body. In their soft, repeating patterns, you can feel the universe revealing a little of how it keeps its own rhythm, holding firm to rules that make reality stable enough to live in, to wonder about, and to fall asleep under, night after night. From that same quiet harmony, the universe gains the gentle, repeatable patterns that make reality feel familiar. Symmetry lays the groundwork, and on that foundation, another idea settles in beside it: conservation. In a world full of motion and change, it is calming to know that some things never truly vanish. They slip from one place to another or change their form, but they are not lost. That soft reliability, that sense that something is being quietly kept track of beneath all the movement, lies at the heart of conservation, one of the most grounding ideas in physics. Conservation says that certain quantities stay constant, no matter how dramatically the scene rearranges itself. They are like silent anchors under the surface, holding reality steady while everything above them flows and transforms. Shapes change, colors fade and return, forces push and pull, but the total of something deep remains the same. You can feel this in your own body. Imagine standing on a smooth floor and beginning to spin slowly. Your arms are stretched outward as you turn. Then you gently pull them in toward your chest, and you notice yourself spinning faster. When you extend them outward again, your spin slows and softens. It almost feels as though the speed is listening to your movements. Nothing mysterious has appeared or disappeared. The total amount of spinning motion you carry has stayed the same. What changes is how that motion is distributed. With your arms outstretched, some of your spin is spread far from your center, so the whole turn feels slower and wider. With your arms drawn in, the same spin is gathered close, so you turn more quickly. You have not created new motion. You have only rearranged motion you already had. Energy and momentum in the universe do this all the time. They move from place to place, from one form into another, but their total does not flicker in and out of existence. An object speeds up because something has given it energy. Another slows because energy has been taken away. If you step back and look at the full picture, the total remains steady. Nothing appears from nowhere. Nothing fades into nothing. It all goes somewhere. The idea becomes even more soothing when you picture something large and distant, like a planet circling its star. As it sweeps closer, it moves a little faster, drawn in by gravity's stronger pull. As it drifts farther away, it slows. Nearer and faster, farther and slower, again and again a quiet cosmic rhythm. Beneath that rhythm lies the same principle you felt while spinning. The planet is always trading one kind of motion for another. When it is close to the star, it has less height in its orbit, but more speed. When it is far, it has more height, but less speed. The total energy that keeps it orbiting stays constant, simply shuffling between forms. That balance keeps the planet in its graceful loop, neither falling into the star nor flying away into the dark, across spans of time longer than all of human history. Even flowing water carries the spirit of conservation. Pour water from one cup into another, and the shape changes. It splashes, ripples, and settles. The surface trembles and then calms. But the amount of water does not flicker. What you began with is what you end with. The liquid has moved, not vanished. Energy moving through the world behaves in a similar way. Picture a river running down a slope. Where the ground falls away steeply, the water rushes quickly, sparkling and loud. Where the river spreads across a flat stretch, it slows. The feeling is different in each place. Restless here, relaxed there, but the total energy carried by the water is simply changing form. Some become swift motion, some become swirling eddies, some warms the stones as water brushes against them. The river does not lose what it has, it redistributes it. Conservation is like nature's internal bookkeeping. It keeps silent track of certain quantities that never truly disappear. even when they hide inside new disguises. When something speeds up, something else must have shared energy with it. When one place cools, the warmth must have slipped into the surroundings. When a force acts, the universe quietly adjusts its accounts. Nothing is free. Nothing is thrown away. This bookkeeping is not harsh. It is gentle and elegant, like a story that always finds its way back to balance. Picture a child running with a paper pinwheel on a breezy afternoon. The wind catches the blades and sets them spinning. The child feels a small tug in their hand. Energy flows from the moving air into the pinwheel, from the pinwheel into the child's arm, and from the child into the ground beneath each footstep. With every moment, energy changes shape and location, yet the total remains steady. The quantities that are conserved energy, momentum, angular momentum, act like deep stabilizers in the fabric of reality. They help stars shine steadily instead of flaring and fading at random. They guide planets along their paths instead of letting them wander without pattern. They allow everyday objects to behave consistently so that you can toss a ball and have a good sense of how it will arc through the air. Even something as small as a cup of tea cooling on a table is guided by conservation. The warmth leaving the liquid is not gone. It is carried into the air, into the table, into the room itself. The molecules in the air move a little more quickly, sharing the heat until it is too faint for you to feel. Nothing is lost. It has simply become too spread out to notice. Conservation does not lock the universe into stillness. It does the opposite. It allows the universe to move and change and evolve while staying grounded. Stars burn, planets drift, rivers carve valleys, forests grow and decay, and through it all, the deep totals remain steady. The rules that keep everything in balance are the same rules that allow transformation and life. Beneath the rush of events, beneath the swirl of time and matter, there are quantities that remain untouched by the surface chaos. They act as quiet anchors of existence, holding the story together across moments and ages, across the life of a person and the life of a galaxy. Because of them, the universe can be both dynamic and dependable, both ever-changing and ever-familiar. When you notice that, another gentle question rises. When we speak of laws of nature, when we write equations and talk about rules, what exactly are we doing? Are we discovering laws that were always there, written into reality long before we arrived? Or are we inventing careful ways to describe patterns we see? There is something softly poetic about the way humans watch the world and then try to put what they see into words and symbols. For as long as people have watched raindrops sliding down a window or stars drifting across the night sky, a quiet question has been humming underneath. Are the rules out there in the universe, or are they in here, in our way of thinking? To even ask this, we turn to the language we have used for centuries to describe patterns, mathematics. It gives us a calm, precise way to express relationships that are hard to catch with everyday words. A falling stone speeds up in a particular way. A warm drink cools along a smooth curve. A planet's path around its star can be drawn with elegant geometry. Mathematics lets us trace these behaviors with clear symbols. But equations are not the rules themselves. They are shadows, maps, translations. When a scientist writes a formula for how something falls or how something heats, they are not instructing nature. They are trying, as honestly as they can, to reflect what nature already does. The universe is not reading those symbols. The symbols are our way of remembering and sharing what we have seen. This brings us close to the heart of the puzzle. When you write down a mathematical description of a thrown stone's arc, Are you uncovering a rule that existed long before you, or are you building a model that happens to match reality very well? The stone will follow its path, whether anyone is there to measure it or not. The question is, does the law live in the stone and the world, or in the mind describing them? History offers gentle hints. Long ago, people looked up at the stars and saw them rise in the east and set in the west. The earth felt steady beneath their feet, so it was natural to imagine a great dome overhead carrying the stars like lanterns. The pattern they observed was real. The stars did move across the sky, but the story they told about that pattern was shaped by what they knew at the time. Later, as observations grew more precise, the story changed. The Earth was understood to be round. Then, it was seen as a planet moving around the Sunday. Later still, the Sun became one star among many in a galaxy, and the galaxy one among others. Through all of these changes in understanding, the rising and setting of the stars remained the same. What shifted was the explanation wrapped around that pattern. Falling objects tell a similar story. For a long time, it was believed that heavier things fell faster because they had a stronger tendency to move down. That idea made sense within the thinking of that era. But when people began to measure more carefully, dropping objects side by side, timing their falls, accounting for air, a deeper pattern appeared. In the same conditions, objects fall in the same way, regardless of their weight, unless air resistance gets in the way. The behavior had always been there. The explanation grew closer to it. These stories suggest that nature has its own quiet habits, present whether or not we notice them, while our descriptions slowly adjust to match. Some thinkers feel that the laws of nature are woven into the universe itself, that gravity, light, heat, and motion followed their patterns long before there were minds to measure them. In that view, we are discovering laws, uncovering truths that were already written into the fabric of reality. Others see the laws we write down as human-made models. The universe simply behaves. It does not carry printed formulas inside it. We create mathematical frameworks that approximate what we see, and we refine them as our tools and insights improve. In this view, understanding grows like a drawing that becomes more lifelike with each careful stroke. The closer the drawing comes to the real face, the more it feels like discovery, even though each line is still something we create. Somewhere between these perspectives lies a comforting thought. Whether we call the rules discovered or invented, the patterns themselves are there, in the fall of a leaf, in the cooling of tea, in the slow circling of planets, in the conservation that keeps the universe balanced. Our minds, with their questions and equations and stories, are simply another part of that same universe, one more pattern, trying to understand the larger pattern it belongs to. We are not standing outside reality, judging it from a distance. We are made of the very fabric we are trying to describe. Even when we admit that our descriptions are, in some sense, creations of the human mind, they still feel tied to something outside us. Perhaps the soft truth lives somewhere in the middle. Nature offers the patterns. Humans offer the language. The universe moves, glows, cools, and orbits with quiet consistency, and we answer by sketching symbols that try to catch that rhythm on a page. Sometimes those symbols match reality with startling grace, as if we have brushed against the heartbeat of the world itself. At other times, the equations falter at the edges, working well here but not there, hinting that the universe has more to say than our current language can hold. In that gentle back and forth, discovery and invention weave together. The world provides the behavior. We provide the stories and formulas that follow along as best they can. Whichever view you lean toward, the central experience remains the same. The world behaves with astonishing regularity. Objects still fall, light still travels, heat still slips from warm to cool. Whether the rules are found or crafted, they shine a soft light on the same underlying harmony. And our description of those rules changes and deepens with time, like a melody that gains new notes as more instruments quietly join in. If you trace this through history, you can see how our interpretations soften and shift. Early skywatchers, with nothing but patient eyes and simple tools, followed the wandering of planets and the turning of constellations. They saw that some stars wheeled across the sky while others seemed fixed. They marked seasons by where certain patterns of light appeared at dusk or dawn. Their diagrams were rough but filled with care. Centuries later, refined instruments revealed more delicate structure. Planetary paths turned out not to be perfect circles, but gentle ellipses. A single gravitational pull could link their motions into one quiet dance. Later still, new theories suggested that gravity might not be a force reaching across empty space at all, but a bending of space and time themselves. At each stage, people felt they were moving closer to something fundamental, even as their explanations kept evolving, becoming more subtle, more in tune with what the universe was showing. The same unfolding happens wherever we look. Light was once pictured as straight rays, then as waves, and then as tiny packets, behaving both like particles and like waves. Heat was once imagined as a substance that flowed from place to place. Later, it became a story of countless small motions, of atoms jostling and sharing energy. With each step, people adjust their language, hoping to bring it a little closer to the quiet truth of how things behave. Whether you call that adjustment discovery or invention, it is still an act of listening. The laws of nature, wherever they finally live in the universe, in our minds, or in the space between, offer comfort. They show that the world is not a blurred storm of unrelated events. It has rhythms and tendencies. It has structures that minds can lean against. They give us a way to translate the quiet consistency of existence into something we can share. A simple curve on a page, a formula for how warmth fades, a sketch of an orbit. As you rest with that thought, your mind may drift toward the space between discovery and invention, that soft, uncertain region where questions float like breath in cold air. The universe behaves the way it behaves. Humans simply try to listen. In that listening, in the gap between what is and what we say about it, there is a gentle wonder, open, unhurried, and quietly inviting. From that quiet place, another word arrives that often sounds much harsher than it really is: chaos. It seems to suggest a world without structure or sense. But in nature, chaos is subtler and more interesting than simple disorder. It does not mean lawlessness. It does not mean that anything might happen at any moment. Chaos is what appears when perfectly steady rules meet tiny differences in how things begin. It is sensitivity, not madness. A system is called chaotic when its future depends so delicately on its starting point that even the smallest change can alter the outcome. A shift as small as the warmth of a hand, the flutter of a bird's wing, or the tilt of a leaf can, over time, grow into a noticeably different story. The rules underneath remain steady and clear, but the paths they generate can drift apart like neighboring streams. Imagine placing two small boats on a calm-looking river. They begin almost side by side, one just a finger's width ahead of the other. At first, their journeys are nearly identical, but as the water flows over rocks and through narrow bends, those tiny differences are stretched. One boat is nudged toward a swirling eddy, the other glides past. One brushes a stone and turns slightly, the other misses it. As time passes, their paths separate more and more. The river has not changed its rules. Water still follows the same channel, still flows downhill, but its complexity has amplified the tiniest distinctions. That is the essence of chaos. Sensitive dependence on initial conditions. Begin with a slight variation, and the result can, given enough time, become entirely different. Weather is perhaps the most familiar example. Many days follow a gentle rhythm. The air warms, clouds drift by, evening cools the ground, and nothing very surprising happens. On other days, the story changes. A rising current of warm air forms a little earlier or a little later. A patch of cooler air lingers where it might normally move on. A cloud that could have evaporated instead thickens and grows. The underlying rules of the atmosphere have not changed. Warm air rises, cool air sinks, moisture condenses, pressure adjusts. But these simple tendencies act across countless tiny motions, molecules colliding, currents sliding past one another, temperatures shifting by the smallest amounts. If the starting arrangement is even slightly altered, those small changes are magnified as the hours pass. By afternoon, the sky may be clear, drizzling, or glowing with storms, all depending on differences so fine we can barely measure them. Chaos also lives in the stillness of a quiet room. Watch a candle flame. It leans, straightens, sways, and settles, as if responding to music just beyond hearing. Beneath that motion are straightforward behaviors. Hot air rises, cooler air moves in to replace it. The flame stretches and shrinks in response. Yet the air around it is never exactly the same from one moment to the next. Tiny eddies drift. The warmth of your hand, a breath across the room, even the small movements of your own body, all alter the airflow just a little. Wave your fingers gently near the flame, and its shape will change at once. Each flicker obeys the same laws, yet no two flickers are perfectly alike because the starting conditions are never perfectly repeated. You can see the same sensitivity in a few leaves on a breezy day. Each leaf obeys simple rules. It is pulled downward by gravity, pushed and turned by the wind, slowed and guided by air pressing against its surface. But no two leaves share exactly the same shape or angle. Released together, they may drift as a group for a heartbeat. Then each finds its own path. One spirals, one tumbles, one glides. The rules are the same. The differences in their beginnings are enough to make each path unique. Chaos, in this sense, is the universe showing how much small details matter. A chaotic system is like a whispered message passed along a long line of listeners. Each person follows the same routine. Hear, interpret, repeat, but a tiny change in the early words can grow with each retelling until the sentence at the end is very different from the one at the beginning. The process is the same every time. The sensitivity is what makes the outcome diverge. Despite this unpredictability, chaos does not erase order. The rules underneath remain firm. Weather systems always follow the same basic physics, no matter how different the sky looks from one day to the next. Candle flames always respond to heat and air in the same way, even as each flicker is new. Leaves always answer to gravity and wind. Chaos does not mean that nature forgets itself. It means that nature is layered and responsive. This kind of behavior allows complexity to bloom from simplicity. Imagine a point moving on a screen according to a few simple instructions. Move a little this way if you are here, a little that way if you are there. The rules hardly take a sentence to describe. Yet, if you let the point wander under those rules for a long time, its path may trace out a shape full of loops and swirls. The shape never quite repeats, but it also never flies off into randomness. It stays within a soft boundary, weaving a pattern called a strange attractor, a structure that lives inside chaos. The same quiet magic appears in the world around you. A rugged coastline, seen from above, looks irregular and jagged, yet its outline is carved by simple acts: waves breaking, tides rising and falling, storms arriving and fading. A tree's branches twist and fork in ways that seem impossibly complex, yet each new twig grows by responding to light, gravity, and gentle pressure. An insect's flight path may look erratic, yet each turn is a response to scents, currents, and tiny cues in the air. Chaos is what happens when many simple behaviors interact at once, each sensitive to the smallest nudge. It can be strangely comforting to realize that, beneath even the most unpredictable scenes, the universe remains lawful. Nothing in a chaotic system happens without cause. The causes are simply too numerous and too fine-grained for us to follow them all. Unpredictability arises not because the rules have failed, but because they are being followed so precisely in a world too intricate for us to measure in perfect detail. Chaos reminds us that the world is not as wild as it looks. It behaves according to steady, dependable laws, even when those laws produce outcomes that surprise us. There is a deep calm in that thought. The flame dancing on the wick is not misbehaving. It is obeying physics with exquisite care. The swirl of leaves in autumn air is not disorderly. It is each leaf responding faithfully to the currents that hold it up. The clouds forming overhead are not lawless. They are shaped by tiny shifts in temperature and moisture, each one guided by familiar tendencies. Chaos teaches that unpredictability and order are not opposites. They coexist. Predictable rules can give rise to unpredictable worlds, not because those rules are broken, but because the world is subtle enough that the smallest details matter. In that gentle blend of order and surprise lies a kind of natural poetry, reminding you that even the most unexpected moments in nature are still resting in the arms of quiet, dependable laws. The unpredictability is only on the surface. Beneath it, the same steady rhythms continue to hum. Clouds are a soft reminder of how simple rules can blossom into intricate forms. From the ground, they look endlessly varied, curling and piling into shapes that seem almost painted. Yet their motion is guided by only a few quiet tendencies. Warm air tends to rise, cool air tends to sink. Water vapor turns into droplets when the temperature falls below a certain point. These same behaviors repeat in countless threads of air across the sky. The clouds you see are just the visible edges of that invisible dance, formed by the same patterns unfolding again and again in slightly different ways. This idea that rich, complex scenes can grow from very simple rules has a gentle name: emergence. It means that when many small pieces each follow straightforward tendencies, their combined behavior can become richer and more surprising than any one of them alone. You can see this in the flocking of birds at dusk. Groups gather and move as one, sweeping and folding across the sky. It looks as though there must be a leader drawing shapes in the evening air. But what each bird actually does is remarkably simple. It keeps a comfortable distance from its neighbors, roughly matches their direction, and stays close enough not to drift away. No bird knows the shape of the whole flock, and yet, when hundreds follow those same modest guidelines, the flock becomes a flowing sculpture, twisting and turning like a single living cloud. The beauty appears naturally, from many small decisions playing out together. The universe's quiet preference for simplicity appears again and again in physics. Often, the descriptions that work best are the ones that assume the least. Light, for instance, appears to travel along paths that, in a certain sense, take the least time. Objects move in ways that, overall, require the least effort. Planets follow orbits that arise from balancing only two tendencies: gravity pulling inward, and their own motion carrying them forward. With just a few ingredients, the universe produces sunsets, seasons, eclipses, and the slow spirals of galaxies. This tendency toward the easiest or most efficient path is not laziness. It is a kind of natural economy. When there are many possible ways for something to happen, nature often settles into the one that spends the least energy, crosses the least resistance, or demands the fewest changes. You can see this in something as small as a soap bubble drifting on a breeze. The thin film could, in principle, stretch into many shapes, but it does not choose at random. It settles into a sphere, the shape with the smallest surface area for a given volume. That shape costs the least energy to maintain. The result is both inevitable and beautiful simplicity wearing the appearance of delicacy. Living things carry the same theme. A single seed contains a quiet pattern for an entire tree. The inner instructions are modest: divide, grow, respond to light, strengthen where pressure is greatest. From this handful of rules, forests rise, trunks twist upward, branches spread, leaves tremble on the slightest wind, roots branch through the soil, following moisture and nutrients. From simple beginnings, whole ecosystems gradually assemble themselves. The more closely you look, the more you see that complexity does not replace simplicity. It grows from it like branches from a trunk. Each added layer of pattern is built from many small, repeated behaviors. After enough layers, the result becomes too intricate to trace in detail with the eye. Yet under that tangle lies something clean and straightforward, repeating quietly. It can be strangely comforting to realize this. It suggests that the universe is not as tangled as it sometimes appears. Beneath the surface of many unfolding patterns, there are simple tendencies doing their work with patience. Complexity is not chaos, it is order, built slowly, layer by layer. Frost on a window, curls of cloud in the afternoon sky, branching rivers seen from above, and the rhythm of your own heartbeat are all expressions of a few basic themes woven together. The universe is always in motion. Stars drift through galaxies like lanterns in a slow, dark river. Planets sweep along their paths, circling their stars in patient loops. Great clouds of gas twist and curl, sometimes collapsing under their own weight until, deep inside, new stars ignite. Even in the stillness of your own body, atoms tremble with tiny motions that never fully stop. Everything is moving, changing, transforming. With all this motion, it might seem surprising that the universe manages to remain so steady, and yet it does. Despite the ceaseless flow of matter and energy, the rules that guide them hold firm, as though woven into the deepest fabric of reality. This quiet firmness allows the cosmos to evolve without losing its balance, to grow more complex without falling into confusion. Planetary motion is one of the most calming examples of this stability. Picture a planet gliding along its orbit, tracing a smooth curve through the dark. Nothing jerks or jolts. The path is continuous, the speed changing only gently as the world moves closer to or farther from its star. Underneath that motion are just two tendencies: gravity pulling inward and the planet's momentum urging it to continue straight. Because those influences remain steady, the orbit can last for billions of years. The surface of the planet may shift, seas may rise and fall, air may thicken or thin, but as long as the rules stay constant, the path endures. Star formation follows a similar, patient logic. A cloud of gas can drift through space for an almost unimaginable length of time, cold and quiet, stirred only by faint tugs and soft collisions. Slowly, tiny irregularities grow. A slightly denser region pulls in a little more matter. Its gravity strengthens, drawing in still more. The cloud collapses inward, warms, spins, and eventually, deep in its center, conditions become just right for nuclear reactions to begin. A star is born. Once a star ignites, it shines by fusing lighter elements into heavier ones, releasing energy in a steady glow. Hydrogen becomes helium. Later, helium can become heavier elements in the star's hot core. Over time, some of this material is thrown back into space when the star sheds its outer layers or ends its life in a brilliant outburst. That dispersed matter then becomes part of new clouds, which can give rise to new stars, planets, oceans, and living things. This cycle of elements is one of the most orderly systems in existence, and it unfolds on timescales so vast that human history feels like a brief breath beside it. Through all of it, the rules governing how atoms fuse, how light is released, and how matter moves do not drift. From the first generation of stars to the ones you see on a clear night, the same quiet processes are at work. Long-term stability arises because local rules combine in consistent ways. Each gas molecule in a cloud moves according to simple pushes and pulls. Each grain of dust in a forming planet follows straightforward interactions. Each atom in a star obeys basic forces of attraction and repulsion. No single piece can see the whole, but together, acting reliably, they assemble structures that last for ages, like a mosaic appearing tile by tile. Consider the quiet steadiness of elemental balance. The oxygen in the air you breathe, the carbon in living things, the iron hidden in a planet's core, all exist because stars forged them through predictable nuclear reactions. Those reactions do not vary wildly from star to star. The same transformations that unfolded in the earliest stars continue now, almost like a heartbeat echoing across time. This consistency is part of what allows chemistry to be reliable, and with it, life. If the rules shifted unpredictably, water might behave differently from one day to the next. Elements might combine in new and incompatible ways. In such a world, it would be difficult for stable structures to form, let alone for living organisms to build and maintain themselves. But because the rules hold steady, everything based on them can find footing and endure. Even the slow dance of galaxies is guided by unwavering principles. Gravity shapes their paths, encouraging stars to gather into spirals, ellipses, and other sweeping forms. These shapes evolve slowly, changing over spans of time that stretch far beyond any human measure. Yet the underlying tendencies remain the same. A star near the edge of a galaxy responds to gravity just as one near the center does. The great structures move in what feels like a cosmic waltz, slow, patient, and beautifully coordinated. It can be soothing to realize that while everything moves, nothing moves without guidance. The stability of the universe is not delicate, it is robust. It endures through change, because change itself follows patterns. A leaf spirals to the ground, pulled by gravity and slowed by air. A comet approaches the sun, heats up, and releases gas, forming a tail that always points away from the star. The scene may look dramatic, but the rules are the same ones that guide planets, moons, and drifting dust. None of this slowness is laziness. It is simply what happens when stability stretches across enormous time. The rules remain fixed, so the changes they produce accumulate carefully, step by step. Stars burn and eventually fade. Orbits adjust. Elements transform. Galaxies drift past one another. Through it all, the underlying laws stand firm, like the unseen foundations of a building that is constantly rearranging its rooms. Because the rules do not waver, the universe does not crumble into chaos. It evolves. The early universe was simple and hot, filled mostly with light elements and radiation. As time passed, those same elements combined and recombined, forming stars, galaxies, planets, and eventually the complex chemistry of life. Each new layer of structure rested on the same old principles. Each step forward depended on the quiet reliability of what came before. There is a deeply calming thought tucked inside all of this. Beneath the restless movement of matter and the constant unfolding of time, there is a steadiness that does not flinch. The universe behaves in ways that are trustworthy, reliable, and patient. It takes all the time it needs, but it does not jump from one set of rules to another. Change happens within a framework that itself does not change. Because of that, the cosmos becomes a place where growth is possible. Structures can endure. Planets can circle their stars for billions of years. Life can arise on worlds warmed by steady suns and supported by elements that always behave the same way. Stability and motion are not opposites here. They are partners. The universe keeps flowing and transforming, but it does so on a foundation that holds steady beneath everything. In that partnership lies a gentle truth. Even in a cosmos that never stops moving, the rules that guide it remain beautifully, quietly constant. It is soothing to know that the same patterns that allow stars to shine and planets to form also give life room to appear and to wonder. At the same time, there is a soft awe in realizing how delicately balanced those patterns truly are. A small change in the underlying rules could lead to a universe so different from this one that it would be almost impossible to recognize. We often seek the same feeling in our own spaces without quite realizing it. A softly lit room, a row of books on a shelf, the repeating slats of a wooden floor, the steady pattern of tiles in a bathroom. Each of these brings a sense of order that the mind quietly leans on. They echo the same gentle message the universe gives in its spirals and branches. You can trust that what you see will not suddenly change without reason. The pattern will still be there when you look again. This is not to say that beauty only lives in perfect regularity. Part of what makes patterns so soothing is the way they balance repetition with variation. A forest is not a grid. No two trees are exactly alike, yet they share a common shape. Waves on the shore are not identical, yet each one rises, curls, and falls in a way your eyes recognize. Music would be dull if every note were the same. It is the interplay of rhythm and change that gives it life. The universe seems to follow the same instinct, weaving together sameness and difference in proportions that feel natural. Think of a field of wildflowers. From far away, you see a wash of color, a gentle texture stretching across the ground. Up close, Each flower is different petals, slightly more curved here, a shade deeper there, a stem that leans in its own direction, yet they all follow the same quiet rules of growth. The beauty you feel does not come from strict uniformity or complete randomness. It arises from the soft middle ground where pattern and uniqueness meet. The night sky shares that balance. The stars follow strict rules in how they form, shine, and move, but the patterns they create against the dark are full of small surprises. Familiar constellations lodge themselves in your memory, yet on a clear night, you may notice a new faint star or a subtle haze from a distant cluster you had never seen before. The overarching structure is stable. Within it, there is room for endless, gentle variation. This is the kind of beauty that does not shout. It rests in reliable frameworks, decorated with delicate differences. When you sense beauty in nature, you are often sensing this alliance between consistency and variation. Your mind recognizes the repeated elements, the spiral, the branch, the ripple, and relaxes because they feel trustworthy. At the same time, it delights in the differences that keep each scene from feeling mechanical. The result is a kind of visual lullaby, familiar enough to soothe, varied enough to keep your attention soft but awake. In this way, beauty becomes another way the universe whispers that it follows rules. The soothing shapes, the recurring patterns, the echoing forms across scales from shells to hurricanes, from raindrops to stars, all hint that the same quiet principles are at work everywhere. You do not need to know the equations to feel this. Your eyes and your body notice long before your thoughts catch up. A well-balanced scene feels right. An awkward shape feels tense. Somewhere underneath those feelings, the logic of nature is making itself felt. What makes all of this especially tender is that the very same rules that give rise to beauty are the rules that make existence possible. The spiral of a galaxy is not just decoration. It is the result of matter and gravity finding a stable way to share motion. The branching of blood vessels in your body is not only a pleasing pattern, it is the most effective way to deliver nourishment to every tiny cell. The hexagonal structure of a honeycomb is not just aesthetic. It is the most efficient way for bees to store their food using the least amount of wax. The elegance you see is not an extra layer laid on top of function. It is function expressed in its most balanced form. This connection between usefulness and beauty suggests that the universe is not indifferent to harmony. When matter, energy, and the basic forces arrange themselves in ways that endure, those arrangements often take on forms we experience as graceful. Stability, efficiency, and symmetry quietly collaborate, and our minds read their collaboration as loveliness. The rules of nature do not aim to produce beauty, yet beauty springs from them as naturally as light from a flame. All of this circles gently back to the question that started our wandering. Why does reality seem to follow rules at all? Why does the universe behave with such quiet consistency instead of reinventing itself from moment to moment? There is no simple, final answer. Some thinkers suggest that any universe capable of lasting long enough to form structures must, by necessity, have stable rules. Others imagine that many possible universes might exist in principle, each with different laws, and we happen to find ourselves in one where the rules allow stars, planets, and life, because only such a universe has observers who can ask questions. These ideas are attempts, in their own way, to wrap language around something fundamental, the sense that the universe is deeply, quietly organized. Not organized like a bookshelf that someone has purposely arranged, but organized the way a river carves its own path, or the way a crystal grows by following its own inner tendencies until a structure appears. What we can say, with gentle certainty, is that the rules of nature, whatever their ultimate origin, give us a world where cause and effect are linked, where patterns repeat, where beauty and function intertwine. They allow you to trust that a stone will fall when released, that morning will follow night, that a seed will, under the right conditions, know how to become a plant. They make it possible to learn, to remember, and to plan, because the past offers clues about the future. In a universe without such rules, meaning would be difficult to find. Experiences would not build on one another. A memory of fire being hot would say nothing about the next flame you touched. A lifetime of watching the sky would tell you nothing about tomorrow. Thought itself would struggle to gain traction in a world where nothing stayed true from one moment to the next. The quiet consistency of reality is what allows minds to grow within it. There is a kind of gentle gratitude that can rise from noticing this. The same consistency that lets scientists write equations also lets a child learn that water quenches thirst, that ice is cold, that the sun sets and will rise again. The same patterns that allow galaxies to form allow birds to find the seasons and plants to unfold their leaves in spring. The universe does not explain itself out loud, but it leaves hints everywhere in motions, shapes, cycles, and quiet repetitions. As you drift towards sleep, you might imagine the rules of nature not as rigid commandments, but as the soft habits of existence, habits that have held since the earliest moments of time, habits that allow stars to burn steadily, atoms to join and part, rivers to carve valleys, and hearts to keep their rhythm. Habits that make the world familiar enough to relax into, even as it remains mysterious enough to wonder about. Reality follows rules, it seems, because this is what it means for a universe to be itself, to have a character, a continuity, a way of unfolding that does not shatter from one breath to the next. In that steadiness, there is room for chaos on the surface, for complexity, for change, and for life. There is space for questions, and for the quiet joy of understanding a little more each day. Somewhere between the falling of a leaf and the turning of a galaxy, between the cooling of tea and the burning of a star, those rules are always at work, unseen, unforced, and endlessly patient. And beneath the vast machinery of it all lies a simple, soothing thought. In this universe, tomorrow will still feel like part of today. The same deep patterns will be waiting for you when you open your eyes again. You can rest in that thought for a while. The same deep reliability that keeps distant galaxies on their paths also steadies the smallest details of your day, the warmth of a mug in your hands, the sound of footsteps on a familiar floor, the way shadows lengthen as evening settles in. These small comforts are local echoes of something vast and steady, moving through everything. As you lie here in the hush of the night, you are resting inside the outcome of countless patterns doing what they always do. The air cools because heat flows from warm to cool. Your muscles soften as certain signals fade. The planet turns, carrying your small patch of ground gently away from the sun's direct light. None of this needs reminding or control. It simply unfolds. You do not have to solve the mystery of why these rules exist to feel their kindness. It is enough, sometimes, just to notice that they are here, steady, familiar, and quietly generous. They give shape to a world where fire warms, rivers flow downhill, and hearts beat in patterns that can be heard and soothed. If you ever feel small beneath the stars, you might remember that you are not standing outside these rules, looking in. You are made of the same matter that burns in distant suns, guided by the same forces that turn galaxies. cooled and warmed by the same exchanges that shape clouds and oceans. You are a small, unique arrangement of the universe's own ingredients, briefly aware of the larger story they are telling. Whatever deeper reasons may lie behind it all, you live in a universe that behaves with enough grace and consistency for questions to form, for understanding to grow, and for nights like this to unfold in calm reflection. The same patterns that guided the first stars are still unfolding overhead. The same habits that shaped the earliest atoms are still shaping your breath. The world will go on following its gentle rules while you drift into sleep, and when you wake, they will be there, waiting, familiar, steady, and softly holding everything in place. When you sit with that thought for a while, life begins to feel less like a fragile exception and more like a natural consequence of the universe being so calmly reliable. You are not balanced on the edge of impossibility. You are resting inside a web of patterns that have been holding themselves together since long before there were eyes to notice or minds to wonder. Every moment of breathing, thinking, and feeling unfolds against the backdrop of rules that do not flinch. Consider how many quiet agreements have to be kept for just a single heartbeat to happen. The elements inside you must exist in the right proportions, forged long ago in the cores of ancient stars. The water in your cells must flow and carry dissolved salts and sugars without freezing solid or boiling away. The membranes around your cells must keep their shape while still allowing just enough exchange with the world outside. The electrical pulses that guide your heartbeat must travel at steady speeds, triggering muscle fibers to contract in a coordinated wave. No one is orchestrating each step, moment by moment. The rules themselves provide the choreography. Even your thoughts depend on this layered harmony. Signals in your brain move along pathways shaped by the same physics that guides electricity along a wire and light across space. The chemistry that allows one neuron to speak to another relies on molecules that behave in predictable ways, binding, releasing, drifting, and recombining according to patterns that would look familiar in a laboratory beaker or inside a distant cloud of gas. When you remember something, when you feel warmth or sadness or calm, you are experiencing the universe's rules from the inside as lived sensation rather than abstract idea. Life also adds its own patterns on top of the physical ones. Hearts beat in repeating rhythms, lungs rise and fall, sleep and waking follow cycles tied gently to the turning of the earth. Seasons shape migrations, flowering, nesting, and harvest. These biological rhythms rest on astronomical rhythms, which rest on the deep consistency of motion and gravity. The smallest breaths and the widest orbits are layered together like verses in the same song. There is comfort in seeing how seamlessly life fits into this hierarchy of patterns. It means that the things that sustain you are not precarious tricks. They are natural outcomes of the way matter and energy prefer to behave. The warmth of sunlight, the binding of oxygen to blood, the ability of DNA to copy itself, the simple fact that liquid water can flow and pool, each of these is a local expression of rules that apply everywhere, from the heart of a star to the quiet of a shaded pond. Even the ability to adapt, to change and evolve, depends on the steadiness of those underlying rules. Life explores possibilities by making small variations, tiny changes in molecules, in behaviors, in forms. Some variations fit well within their environment, others fade. But the environment itself, from the chemistry of air and water to the pull of gravity, remains stable enough for those experiments to mean something. The rules of nature provide the stage on which life can try different steps without the floor vanishing beneath it. Over long stretches of time, this gentle process of variation and selection builds astonishing diversity. Forests, coral reefs, grasslands, tide pools, each is a different way of arranging the same basic ingredients. And yet, all of them depend on the same constants: the charge on the electron, the strength of gravity, the behavior of light and heat. Life looks endlessly varied, but beneath that variety lies a shared trust in the consistency of the world. When you look at a tree, you can see almost all of this layered harmony at once. Its roots follow water through soil, packed according to the same rules that form rocks and sand. Its trunk stands against gravity, using fibers that obey the same mechanical principles as bridges and bones. Its leaves spread out to catch light that has traveled across space according to unchanging laws. Inside each leaf, molecules use that light to rearrange atoms into sugars, following chemical pathways that are the same in forests across the planet. A tree is not separate from the universe's rules. It is what those rules look like when they have spent a long time practicing growth. And you, standing beneath that tree or passing by it on a quiet walk, are another expression of the same practice. Your senses pick up patterns, shapes, colors, sounds, and your brain searches gently for meaning within them. You find comfort in repetition, in familiar paths and recurring seasons, because they echo the deeper repetition that has always been there. The universe repeats itself, not by copying every detail, but by following the same tendencies again and again. Life uses that repetition to build habits, memories, and stories. From this perspective, asking why reality follows rules becomes almost the same as asking why reality has any identity at all. A universe without rules would be a universe without recognizable character, no cause and effect, no patterns to learn, no structures enduring long enough to be named. In such a place, nothing could build on anything else. There would be no stable atoms, no lasting stars, no reliable warmth, no way for life to gather itself together long enough to notice that it exists. Rules give reality its continuity. They allow the present to be gently linked to the past and to the future. They let a child learn from experience, a river carve a valley, a star enrich the space around it with new elements forged in its core. They make it possible for memories to matter and for knowledge to accumulate, because what was true yesterday has a strong chance of being true tomorrow under the same conditions. The deeper question of why those rules have the particular form they do may remain unanswered for a very long time. It might be that there is a deeper layer of explanation waiting to be found, some more fundamental pattern from which all others arise. It might be that our universe is one of many possible ones, each with its own set of consistent habits. Or it might be that why is simply the kind of word that stops making sense at a certain depth, like a boat that can go only so far before the water becomes too shallow to float it. But even without a final answer, there is quiet meaning to be found in the fact that the rules are there at all. Their presence allows everything else to exist, every wave and whisper, every sunrise, every heartbeat, every moment of understanding, and every moment of rest. The consistency of the universe is the background against which all of your experiences are drawn. You do not have to solve the mystery to live inside it. You only have to notice that, from one breath to the next, the world continues to behave like itself. Stones still fall, water still flows downhill, light still travels outward, carrying news of distant stars. cells still repair themselves, hearts still settle into rhythm after moments of worry. These quiet continuities are the most intimate evidence you have that reality is ruled by patterns, not by whim. In the hush of night, when the world feels softer at the edges, it can be comforting to let that sink in. The same laws that govern galaxies are at work in the way your blanket holds warmth, in the way your body releases the day's tension, in the way your thoughts begin to slow. You are held, minute by minute, by the steadiness of a universe that does not forget how to be itself. Somewhere far away, stars are forming and fading. Somewhere nearby, leaves are stirring in a faint breeze. Somewhere inside you, countless cells are quietly carrying out their tasks. All of these happenings are different in scale and texture, but they are united by a common thread, the same underlying rules, patient and consistent, guiding each unfolding moment. If there is a kind of answer to why reality follows rules, it might be this gentle observation. Rules are what allow anything to last long enough to be real to us. They make the universe not just a flash of possibility, but a place with history, with structure, with room for questions and for peace. They make it possible for you to feel at home in a cosmos that is vast beyond imagining. As you drift toward sleep, you can let that thought be a soft weight in your mind. The universe will continue in its quiet routines, whether you are watching or not. The same patterns that have carried it for billions of years will be there when you wake. Reality will still be following its rules, offering you the familiar comfort of a world that, despite all its mysteries, continues to unfold with a calm, reliable grace. You are, in a quiet way, one of those patterns, not fixed or rigid, but continuous enough to be recognized from day to day, from year to year. Your memories, your habits, the way you laugh or fall silent or look up at the sky, these are all forms of repetition shaped by countless influences. They arise from a brain and a body that trust the world to behave consistently, and from a universe that has given you time to become yourself. In that sense, every gentle rule that holds from one moment to the next is also an invitation to rest, to wonder, and to feel, however briefly, that you belong inside this ordered, unfolding story. When you sit with that mystery, it can feel less like a puzzle to be solved and more like a quiet presence you share the night with. The fact that reality follows rules may never come with a full explanation tied neatly in a bow, yet its effects are all around you. They live in the warmth of a cup, cooling slowly between your hands, in the way your footsteps sound the same each time they meet the floor, in the calm knowledge that the sun will rise again whether or not you are awake to watch it. Order does not erase uncertainty or difficulty from life. Days still bring challenges, mistakes, and turns you did not expect. But beneath those shifting surfaces, the same steady framework continues to hold. Gravity does not grow weaker on the mornings when you feel tired. The air does not forget how to carry sound just because words are hard to find. Light does not dim its loyalty to the rules because someone, somewhere, is having a difficult day. In a world where so much feels changeable, there is comfort in knowing that something deeper remains steady. This steadiness is what allows stories to exist. A story is only meaningful when one moment flows into the next with some kind of continuity. The same is true of a life. Your memories connect because the world behaved reliably while they were being formed. The place you walked as a child is shaped by the same gravity and weather that touch it now. The faces you remember were lit by the same physics of light and shadow that let you see the people around you today. Rules turn isolated moments into a thread you can follow. They also leave room for choice. Fixed patterns in nature do not mean that everything is already decided. They simply set the stage on which choices can matter. Notes on a musical scale do not dictate which song must be played. They provide a shared language from which many songs can be created. In a similar way, the laws of nature allow your actions to have consequences that make sense. A kind gesture can ripple outward. A word of comfort can reach another heart through air that always carries sound the same way. Your efforts to learn, to care, to create are not swallowed by chaos. They land in a world where cause and effect are linked. Even rest depends on that reliability. You can close your eyes at night without having to rehearse how the world will behave while you sleep. You do not have to remind the earth to keep turning, or the stars to keep shining in their distant places. You do not need to supervise the air entering and leaving your lungs. The rules of nature hold your surroundings together so quietly that most of the time you can forget they are there. Forgetting is its own kind of trust. When you notice patterns in your own life, you are seeing the same logic on a smaller scale. The way your energy rises and falls through the day, the times when your mind is clearest, the habits that bring you calm or tension. Each of these is a pattern woven from biology, experience, and environment. They are not as strict as the laws of physics, but they echo the same idea. When conditions repeat, outcomes tend to repeat as well. Understanding those patterns can make life feel a little more navigable, like recognizing familiar constellations in a complex sky. The rules of nature do not tell you what to value or who to become, but they give you the space and stability to explore those questions. They keep the ground under your feet while you decide which direction to walk. They keep the chemistry of memory intact while you sort through the past. They keep your body functioning while your thoughts wander through hopes and worries and quiet dreams. In that sense, the laws of the universe are not distant abstractions. They are the background support for everything personal and close. It can be gentle to think of yourself as one small pattern among many. Your life has its own rhythms and repetitions, its own seasons of change and rest. Yet it is nested inside larger patterns: the turning of the Earth, the orbit of your planet around its star, the slow drift of your star within its galaxy. Every breath you take borrows air from systems that have been circulating for far longer than any one lifetime. Every step you take presses against ground shaped by processes that began before there were names for them. Seen this way, the rules of reality are not just topics for equations and diagrams. They are the quiet agreements that make room for kindness, for curiosity, for love. Reliable cause and effect allow you to keep promises, to practice skills, to heal from hurts. The fact that actions have consistent consequences is what makes learning possible, and healing, and change. Without that, regret could not lead to growth, and patience could not lead to improvement. The same stability that lets planets keep their orbits also lets people slowly reshape their lives. You do not need to hold all of this in your mind at once. It is enough to feel, from time to time, that you are living in a universe where things make sense deeply enough for understanding to bloom. A universe where beauty arises from repeated tendencies, where chaos sits on top of order rather than replacing it, where life is an outgrowth of the same rules that guide stars and seas. Even when answers are incomplete, the existence of any answer at all is already a gift from consistency. On quiet nights, when thoughts grow soft around the edges, you might let yourself lean into that. The sense that beneath every uncertainty there is a fabric of regularity, holding everything together. The same physics that shapes distant galaxies is at work in the way your blanket drapes over you, in the way your room cools slowly after the lights go out, in the way your body settles as muscles release their effort. You are held in place by the same laws that guide the largest structures in the sky. Reality follows rules, and because it does, there can be waves and clouds and forests. There can be music and language and memory. There can be warmth and shelter and shared moments of quiet. There can be a night like this one, in which you lie still, listening to your own breathing, while the universe outside continues to unfold along its familiar pathways. The rules do not ask anything of you. They simply continue, patient and steady, making it possible for you to rest. As you breathe in and out, you are moving with those patterns, not apart from them. Each heartbeat is a tiny rhythm nested inside the larger rhythm of the cosmos. Each calm thought is like a small, clear pool, reflecting a sky that has been following its own rules since long before there were minds to notice it. You are part of that story now, for a while, carried gently along by laws that keep tomorrow connected to today. You do not have to decide why those rules exist or what they mean on the grandest scale. It is enough to feel their presence in the familiar weight of your body, in the softness of the air, in the quiet continuity between this moment and the next. Somewhere far away, stars are burning according to the same principles. Somewhere nearby, a leaf is falling along a path set by gravity and air. Somewhere inside you, countless tiny events are unfolding with astonishing precision. All of it is reality, being consistent with itself. And here you are, resting within it, free to let your thoughts loosen and drift, knowing that while you do, the universe will keep its gentle promises. You might picture the laws of nature as lines from a very old, very patient poem. The verses are simple. Energy is conserved. Motion continues unless something changes it. Warm things cool. Patterns reappear when conditions repeat. From these few lines, the universe has been reciting variations for billions of years. Stars are one variation. Oceans are another. Forests, cloudscapes, cities at night, the quiet interior of a single room at the end of the day, each is a phrase in that long, unfolding recitation. In your own life, you add your voice to that poem in ways that may seem small but are not. Every time you learn something, you lean on the fact that the same action leads to the same result, often enough to trust it. Every time you comfort someone, you rely on a pattern in the human heart. That gentleness usually eases tension, that being seen and heard usually brings relief. Feelings are not as exact as equations, but they too show rhythms that make connection possible. This does not mean everything is rigid. There is always room for surprise, and for paths you could not have sketched in advance. The rules set boundaries. Within them, countless stories are still free to grow. A seed knows how to reach for light, yet the exact shape of the tree depends on wind, soil, chance, and time. In a similar way, your life grows within a framework of dependable physics and biology, yet its specific shape, your choices, your relationships, your particular joys and sorrows, remains uniquely your own. When the day has been noisy or tangled, it can help to remember that beneath the surface, the quiet regularity of the universe is still there. The same conservation that keeps stars shining also carries the warmth from your body into the surrounding air. The same symmetries that guide planets through space also mean your room feels the same no matter which way you face. The same emergent patterns that shape clouds and flocks and forests also appear in the gatherings of people who care about one another and share time, stories, and care. Letting these thoughts pass through you does not require effort. They can be like distant waves seen from the shore, moving steadily while you remain still. The feeling underneath is what matters, that you live in a reality which, at its root, is not arbitrary. It has habits and keeps them. It offers enough stability for meaning and enough openness for surprise. That balance is what allows you to rest, to wonder, and to belong. In a closed room filled with air, for example, each tiny molecule races about in its own direction, crashing and glancing off countless others in paths no one could ever hope to track. If you could follow a single molecule, its journey would look like a scribble without pattern, turning and tumbling in ways that seem completely without plan. And yet, when you step back and consider all of the molecules together, their combined behavior settles into something remarkably smooth. The pressure in the room stays almost constant. The temperature changes only gradually. The air fills every corner evenly. From trillions of random motions arises a calm, predictable whole. This is the quiet power of large numbers. When many small, uncertain events are allowed to unfold, their individual unpredictability begins to average out. The details blur, but the overall pattern comes into focus. Flip one coin, and you have no idea whether it will land as heads or tails. Flip the coin 1,000 times, and the proportions begin to lean toward a familiar balance. Watch one raindrop, and its path is a mystery. Watch the rain all season long, and its patterns grow clear enough to plan crops, refill reservoirs, and predict the turning of rivers. Randomness, when gathered in great numbers, reveals a second layer of order. You can glimpse this in something as simple as dust dancing in a shaft of sunlight. Each tiny speck jigs and darts unpredictably, nudged by invisible collisions with air molecules. This motion, called Brownian motion, looks like pure restlessness, but it, too, follows statistical rules. The average distance a particle wanders in a given time, the likelihood that it drifts this way instead of that, all of these tendencies can be described with gentle accuracy. The path of a single grain is unknowable. The behavior of many grains together becomes quietly reliable. Even at the smallest scales we know, randomness and rule sit side by side. In the realm of quantum events, where particles can slip between possibilities and outcomes are given only by probabilities, nothing is certain in the way it is for falling stones or swinging pendulums. A single radioactive atom may decay now or much later, and no one can say exactly when. But when you gather many atoms together, their collective behavior can be predicted with exquisite precision. Half of them will decay in a characteristic span of time, a timescale so regular that it becomes a tool for measuring ages of rocks, fossils, and even the universe itself. In this way, randomness becomes another way the universe expresses its consistency. It does not abandon rules when it allows chance to enter. It simply shifts from strict predictability to patterns written in the language of probability. Instead of saying, "This will happen," nature says, "This will happen this often." The promise is softer but no less real. Over many repetitions, the statistical pattern holds. The freedom of individual events is held within the gentle arms of averages that barely waver. There is something calming in this softer kind of order. It means that not everything is rigidly fixed, yet nothing is utterly without structure. A storm can form from countless chaotic gusts, but the climate over years follows steady trends. A heartbeat can vary from one moment to the next, yet its average rhythm tells a clear story about health and rest. The universe leaves room for variation, surprise, and individuality, while still keeping the overall picture stable. Randomness and rule do not live in separate worlds. They cooperate quietly in every breeze, every cloud, every breath. You might picture it the way you picture a night sky scattered with stars. From far away, the stars seem placed at random, pricked into the darkness with no obvious pattern. But when astronomers look carefully, they see structures emerging, clusters, streams, filaments of galaxies stretched across unimaginable distances. On the smallest scale, the placement of one star may be unpredictable. On the grandest scales, gravity and expansion weave those stars into shapes that repeat from region to region. The universe allows small freedoms while still guiding the larger picture toward recognizable forms. The same idea appears in the gentle roll of dice or the shuffle of cards. Each throw, each shuffle feels entirely open, yet the odds of each outcome are fixed. No one can say which number will appear next, but over many throws, certain averages emerge with reliable calm. This is why games can be analyzed, why risks can be estimated, why uncertainty can be lived with instead of feared. The presence of randomness does not erase the ground beneath it. It dances on top of a floor built from probabilities that never stray. Even the branching of life across generations reflects this interplay. Small random changes appear in the copying of DNA, introducing variety into each new generation. Most changes are quiet or neutral. Some are harmful, a few are helpful. The environment, guided by physical rules, gently filters these variations. Over long spans of time, new forms emerge, shaped by a mix of chance and necessity. Evolution is not lawless. It is randomness flowing through a channel carved by the rules of physics, chemistry, and survival. You can feel this cooperation in your own life. No single day follows a perfect script. Small surprises slip in, a conversation you did not expect, a thought you had not planned, a change in mood, a chance encounter. Yet, across weeks and months, patterns appear. You wake and sleep on a rough schedule. You gravitate toward familiar foods, familiar streets, familiar comforts. Your moods ebb and flow with their own rhythm. The details are scattered, but the overall shape of your days is not random. It is guided by habits, needs, and the reliable background of a world that behaves consistently enough for routines to form. Seen through this lens, randomness is not the enemy of understanding. It is part of how the universe balances flexibility with stability. If everything were strictly determined down to the smallest detail, there would be no room for genuine variation, for branching possibilities, for the freshness that gives each moment its own character. If everything were completely without rule, nothing could endure, nothing could be learned, and nothing could be trusted. By weaving randomness into a fabric of statistical order, reality finds a middle path, structured enough to be knowable, loose enough to be alive. The more you notice this, the more the world begins to feel like a conversation between certainty and chance. Waves roll in with regular timing, yet no two crests are identical. Stars follow dependable courses, yet the night sky holds rare events like comets and flares. Your heart follows well-practiced rhythms, yet it still responds to laughter, fear, and calm in ways that tilt those rhythms slightly one way or another. Everywhere, fixed rules and wandering variations meet and make something richer than either would be alone. All of this folds back into the question that has been quietly present all along. Why does reality follow rules at all? The more you look, the more you see that the answer is not a single sentence, but a landscape. Rules arise from stability, from symmetry, from the averaging of countless tiny events, from the way certain patterns are the only ones that can endure. They arise from deeper principles that may themselves be the expression of something even more fundamental. They show themselves in strict conservation and in soft probabilities, in the paths of planets and in the flicker of a candle flame. Standing within this landscape, you are not outside the rules, peering in. You are inside them, made of them, carried by them. The atoms in your body obey conservation and symmetry. The warmth you feel is the motion of countless tiny particles following statistical laws. Your ability to learn from experience rests on the universe, behaving the same today as it did yesterday. Every memory, every glimpse of beauty, every moment of understanding is built on top of that deep reliability. It can be soothing to let this awareness settle in your thoughts, like a stone settling at the bottom of a clear pool. The world is not perfect. It contains randomness, difficulty, and uncertainty. But beneath all of that, there is a structure that does not easily break. Rules hold, patterns return. What is learned can continue to be true. The universe has found a way to be both stable and changing, lawful and surprising, ordered and alive. As you rest within that thought, the question, why does reality follow rules, becomes less like a riddle demanding an answer, and more like a doorway into appreciation. Whatever the ultimate reason, the fact that rules exist at all is what allows there to be nights and waves and clouds and forests. It is what allows there to be music that repeats its chorus, stories that build from beginning to middle, lives that carry memories forward. It is what allows you, in this quiet moment, to trust that the ground beneath you will remain, that the air around you will continue to support each breath, and that tomorrow will still belong to the same gently unfolding universe you are lying in now. There is a quiet reassurance in knowing that even where the universe allows things to wander, it still draws a soft boundary around that wandering. In a room full of air, each tiny molecule zigzags in its own unpredictable way, yet the pressure on the walls stays steady, the temperature remains within a narrow band, and the gas fills every corner evenly. What seems like aimless motion up close becomes calm stability when you step back. The randomness has not vanished. It has simply merged into order. It is a gentle reminder that unpredictability does not sit outside the universe's rules. It plays a part in them. Uncertainty in the details becomes the foundation of reliability in the whole. The same restlessness that makes a single molecule impossible to track is what allows the collective to behave so smoothly. It is one more way the universe blends opposites into something balanced. You can see this blending in living patterns. Your heartbeat is not a perfectly ticking clock. It shifts from moment to moment, sometimes a little slower, sometimes a little faster. That soft irregularity is not a failure, it is part of being alive. Too much randomness in the rhythm can be dangerous, but too little can be a sign of strain. A healthy heart lives in the middle ground, guided by quiet biological rules that keep each beat within a safe, flexible range. Leaves falling from a tree tell a similar story. Each leaf drifts along its own twisting path, pushed and turned by invisible currents of air. No one could predict the exact route it will take. Yet step back, and the broader pattern appears. Leaves fall in season. They gather under branches, drift into familiar piles and slowly soften the forest floor. Randomness fills in the details. The cycle remains steady. When order and randomness work together like this, they create patterns that feel alive rather than rigid. Pure order would be hard and mechanical. Pure randomness would dissolve into noise. The world you live in rests between these extremes, blending predictable tendencies with unpredictable moments. This balance allows storms to form without tearing the sky apart, winds to wander without erasing climate, landscapes to change without losing their identity, and life to adapt without breaking. Probability is the quiet bridge between these two sides. It does not insist that a particular event must happen. Instead, it gently suggests what is likely. Raindrops may fall wherever the wind and clouds decide, but over time, the total rainfall in a region settles into a pattern. A coin may land heads or tails each time you flick it, but over many throws, the ratio of heads to tails drifts toward a familiar balance. Probability does not fix the story. It keeps the story anchored. Seen this way, randomness becomes another language the universe uses to write its patterns. Instead of tracing one strict line, it sketches many possible lines that cluster around a shared shape. Variety appears without destroying structure. Complexity appears without erasing the simplicity underneath. The universe does not choose between order and freedom. It uses both, letting them lean on each other. Thinking of rules in this softer way changes what a law of nature feels like. A rule does not always have to command every step. Sometimes it only needs to describe how countless small uncertainties gather into dependable averages, or how outcomes tend to cluster within certain ranges rather than scatter everywhere. These gentler rules give reality room to move. They allow clouds to swirl, rivers to meander, and hearts to vary their rhythm, all while staying within bounds that keep the whole system recognizable. From this perspective, randomness stops looking like a crack in the universe's order and starts looking like part of its design. It is woven into rainfall, starlight, breezes, and living rhythms. It shapes the world quietly, without tearing the stability underneath. The universe does not stand at a crossroads where it must choose either order or chance. It carries both at once, combining them into a fabric with depth, texture, and endless gentle variation. Beneath all of this, there is a deeper harmony that holds everything together. Every law that shapes the world fits neatly with every other law. Gravity does not disagree with electromagnetism. The rules of motion do not contradict the rules of energy. The principles that govern the smallest particles work alongside the principles that guide entire galaxies. Together, they form a seamless structure in which events unfold with steady, patient logic. Without that self-consistency, nothing familiar could survive. A world with clashing rules would be a world where objects fell and then suddenly floated for no reason, where light sped up in one direction and slowed in another, where atoms held together one day and crumbled apart the next. Cause and effect would blur. Any structure that tried to form would dissolve as quickly as it appeared. Instead, the universe behaves as though it values harmony. The same rule that guides a falling stone also guides the arc of a planet. The same chemistry that shapes a cloud also shapes the water in your cells. Light obeys the same principles, whether it passes through a glass of water or crosses the space between galaxies. This unity allows each moment to follow from the last in a smooth line. A wave breaks because of the wind that stirred it. A seed sprouts because of the soil, water, and sunlight that sustained it. A star shines because the reactions in its core proceed without forgetting themselves. This underlying agreement reaches across all scales. Gravity treats a drifting speck of dust with the same logic it uses for entire planets. The rules governing subatomic particles blend into the rules that describe stars and galaxies. Everything fits into a single, coherent framework, as though reality were a long, carefully woven poem in which every line supports the lines around it. Because the universe refuses to contradict itself, understanding becomes possible. If rules could clash and change without warning, patterns would collapse as soon as they were noticed. Observations would mislead, and knowledge could not accumulate. Instead, nature repeats its lessons. The same experiment done today and tomorrow gives the same result, as long as the conditions match. A pattern glimpsed by one person can be tested, shared, and recognized by another, even centuries later. Learning becomes a quiet conversation with a universe that stays true to its own character. When you look at the world through this lens, reality begins to feel less like a pile of separate pieces and more like a single, well-tuned whole. Patterns, symmetries, stability, logic, and probability all work together. The same habits that guide the stars guide the glow of a candle. The same preferences that shape galaxies shape the curl of a fern and the branching of rivers. The same consistency that allows atoms to bind into matter also allows hearts to beat and thoughts to form. In that sense, every ordinary moment becomes a small window into the deep order of the cosmos. The warmth of a mug in your hands, the sway of trees in a breeze, the familiar sound of footsteps on a floor, each of these is carried by the same laws that hold galaxies together. You are never really apart from the grand patterns you have been imagining. You are made of them, surrounded by them, and gently supported by them. And so, when you return to the soft question that has been drifting in the background, why reality seems to follow rules, the answer feels less like a sharp conclusion and more like a feeling. A universe without rules would be a brief, vanishing spark with no shapes, no stories, no chance for anything to last. A universe with rules becomes a place where light can flow, matter can gather, and life can slowly emerge from the quiet organization of atoms. The rules do not cage the universe. They give it the possibility to exist and to grow intricate and beautiful over time. As you rest with this, the world around you may feel a little more connected, a little more gentle. The same principles that guide distant galaxies are at work in the ground beneath you, in the air around you, and in the steady rhythms of your own body. The patterns that shape starlight also shape your breath. The consistency that lets the cosmos endure also holds each moment of your life with quiet strength. Somewhere far away, stars are burning steadily according to those rules. Somewhere nearby, leaves are drifting down, each on its own small, unpredictable path, yet all within the larger cycles of seasons and growth. Somewhere inside you, countless tiny events are unfolding in lawful synchrony, keeping you warm and alive and present in this moment. All of it is the universe following its habits, steady, patient, and endlessly inviting. And within those habits, there is room for beauty, for structure, and for life to find its place and gently drift toward rest.